66 million years ago, the Earth was a masterpiece of life, a world of gods ruled by giants. It was a time of absolute dominance, where nature reached its most magnificent and terrifying peak. These creatures didn't just inhabit the world, they owned it. Their reign seemed eternal. But even the greatest empires are built on shifting sands. The clock of destiny was already ticking. Peace is often just the silence before the most violent storm in history.
From the highest peaks to the deepest oceans, life flourished in a perfect, fragile balance.
They were the ultimate hunters, perfected by millions of years of evolution. No one could have imagined that this entire world was about to vanish in a single day. Life was preparing for a future that would never come for most of these species. The kings were on their thrones, but the void was preparing its final judgment. The first warning didn't come from the sky, it came from beneath. The earth itself began to tremble in anticipation. In what is now modern India, the earth began to bleed. For thousands of years, volcanoes poured poison into the atmosphere. The air grew heavy with sulfur. The light of the sun began to fade, choked by the breath of the underworld. Paradise was being consumed by fire. The slow, relentless march of molten rock was just the beginning. Every breath became a struggle. The very foundation of life, the plants, began to wither under a rain of dust. The Deccan Traps were the first horsemen of the apocalypse, but they were not the last. Evolution doesn't prepare you for a world that turns into a furnace. The rules of survival were about to change forever. Nature was in agony, but as the Earth suffered, a far greater threat was screaming through the silence of space. From the darkest void, the true king of destruction was approaching. It didn't ask for permission. It didn't offer a compromise. It only promised an end. This was a remnant of creation, a 10-kilometer-wide mountain of ancient rock, traveling at 40 times the speed of sound, a cosmic bullet with Earth as the target. At first, it was just a strange light, a new star, a curious object in a sky that had been peaceful for millions of years. But as it grew, so did a silent, paralyzing fear, a sense of wrongness. The final warning had arrived. Within seconds, the visitor became an executioner. The air around it turned into white-hot plasma, igniting the atmosphere with the energy of 1 billion atom bombs. The very sound of its arrival was a death sentence, a roar that split the heavens and turned ancient jungles into kindling in a heartbeat. Impact. In one single blinding moment, the world of the giants ceased to exist as they knew it. The collision changed everything. The planet's crust was turned into a liquid ripple, a continent-sized crime scene where the laws of physics were rewritten by brute force. It was an extinction pulse, a ring of fire that raced across the globe, bringing an instant and fiery judgment to all living things. The Chicxulub file is open. This is how the reign of the gods came to a screaming, fiery end. The sky itself had turned into an enemy. The thermal pulse moved at the speed of light. In an instant, the atmosphere became a furnace, and the world was set ablaze. The king of predators faced an enemy it could not fight. For the first time in millions of years, The T-Rex was truly helpless. The debris thrown into space returned as fire. A global rain of molten glass turned the sky into a ceiling of falling embers. The Earth itself shattered. A shockwave of unimaginable power leveled everything that dared to stand tall in the path of fate. Even the cradle of life, the ocean, was not spared. The surface waters boiled, and the ancient balance of the deep was broken forever. Those who took to the air found only a toxic trap. The sky was no longer a sanctuary, it had become a graveyard of ash. In the span of a single afternoon, the planet's biological clock was reset. The era of giants was burning to a tragic close. Every trace of their long dominance was being erased. The footprints of the gods were turning into dust before they could even grow cold. The fire eventually died down, but it was replaced by something even more terrifying: the beginning of the Great Darkness. Then came the water. A wall of death, 1,000 feet high, raced across the oceans, drowning the survivors of the fire. The oceans were displaced by the impact, surging inland to reclaim the earth. The giants were trapped between a burning sky and a rising sea. In the chaos of the flood, there was no distinction between the hunter and the prey. All were equal in the eyes of the abyss. As the waves receded, they left a silent wasteland. A world once vibrant and loud was now buried under millions of tons of sediment. The sun had become a memory. A shroud of sulfur and soot began to wrap the planet in a cold, suffocating embrace.
The heat of the impact was gone, replaced by a sudden, unnatural chill. The Great Darkness had begun. Photosynthesis, the engine of life, came to a halt. Without light, the green world began to wither and die. For the giants that survived the fire and the flood, a slower, more cruel fate awaited. Starvation was the new law of the land. The atmosphere was no longer air, it was a cocktail of acid and dust. The very breath of life had become poisonous. As the world of the giants turned to ice and shadow, the small and the humble waited in the dark. Their time was coming. The darkness was absolute. For years, the soot from the global fires remained suspended in the atmosphere. The planet's temperature plummeted. Tropical paradises were transformed into frozen graveyards in a matter of weeks. Energy was the new currency of survival. But with the plants dead, the herbivores were spending their last reserves on a battle they could not win. Even the apex predators found themselves at the mercy of the cold. The king of the dinosaurs was now a ghost haunting a dead world. In the oceans, the collapse was total. The tiny organisms that fueled the entire food chain vanished. Sulfuric acid rain fell from the sky, scarring the land and poisoning the water. The earth was no longer a mother. She had become a tomb. Extinction is not always a sudden explosion. Often, it is a quiet, cold silence that settles over a generation that has no future. The era of the gods was ending, not with a roar, but with a whimper. One by one, the lineages of millions of years flickered out. While the giants died, the small and adaptable held on. Seeds, roots, and shadows were their sanctuary. They were the inheritors of the ruins. The sun would eventually return. No, it would shine upon a world that no longer belonged to the dinosaurs. Shocked quartz. These crystals only form under the extreme pressure of a nuclear blast or a massive cosmic impact. Pectites. Tiny droplets of molten rock that were thrown into space and rained back down as glass. The cooling sweat of a dying era.
Then came the iridium anomaly, an element rare on Earth's surface but abundant in asteroids. The smoking gun was finally found.
The DEUFA archives have cross-referenced these geological fingerprints. Every piece of the puzzle fits a single, terrifying narrative. Buried beneath hundreds of meters of sediment lies the Chicxulub crater. a scar 150 kilometers wide. The Earth never forgot the wound. We study the bones not just to see how they lived, but to understand how we survived. Their end was our beginning. History is written in layers of stone. It is a story of cycles, of power, and of the ultimate fragility of life on a cosmic scale. The Chicxulub file proves that dominance is an illusion. In the universe, even the gods are subject to the laws of gravity and chance. But life is persistent. Out of the ashes of a fallen empire, the small and the humble emerged. They had waited in the shadows for 60 million years. The first sign of recovery was a single leaf. Nature was reclaiming the wasteland, turning the remains of the old gods into the soil for a new world. The world was being reshaped. Without the giants to trample the earth, forests of a new kind began to conquer the continents. The sun finally returned with its full power. The great darkness was over, but the world it illuminated was unrecognizable. Every heartbeat of modern humanity is a distant echo of that first survivor who crawled out of the dust. We are the children of the catastrophe. The dinosaurs did not entirely vanish. They traded their heavy scales for feathers and took to the sky, watching as a new power rose on the ground. We carry their story in our curiosity. We look back at their end to understand the fragility of our own existence. We carry their story in our curiosity. We look back at their end to understand the fragility of our own existence. The stars that brought the end now watch over our progress. We live in a brief window of cosmic peace, built on the ruins of giants. The cycle continues, from the dust of the Cretaceous to the steel of the modern age. The transition is complete. Consciousness determines being. We are the first species on this planet capable of understanding the very forces that could destroy us. The universe is indifferent to power. It does not recognize titles or crowns. It only recognizes the laws of cause and effect. Our mission at DEUFA is to preserve these cosmic lessons, to remind humanity that our existence is a privilege, not a right. Every bone we find is a warning. Every crater is a reminder. We are the guardians of a story that spans 66 million years.
The Chicxulub file is now complete. The data has been archived. The truth remains.
Our mission at DEUFA is to preserve these cosmic lessons, to remind humanity that our existence is a privilege, not a right.
Narrated by Hans-Joachim Müller. Directed by Dieter Walter. A production of the DEUFA International Archive. Follow the archive. Explore the past. Understand the future. Knowledge is the only shield against the void. The file is closed.